Hey, we're back live for the sentencing hearing of Aaron Dean, and we're going to take up where we left off. They were on a break. I'm going to see if they're back from the break. No. What we heard this morning, and it's on the tail end of the thumbnail that says verdict in the midwife case. But we heard the testing, the psychological testing that was done on Aaron Dean before he was hired as a Fort Worth police officer. And what they said was he was not fit to be a police officer. However, we learned also that he appealed that exam, had 3 other psychological exams that said he was fit to be a police officer. So interesting testimony so far. So that is where they'll pick up in this case when it resumes. So I'm going to pull up the screen where that is going on. Okay, here it is. So when they go live, we will, I'll put that into the stream. So we don't need it right now because they're not live yet. So I'll just wait for everybody to come in. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up. If you're watching back on the replay, welcome. It's probably going to be a long one today. Okay, they are back now, live. I don't know if he's brought the jury in yet. Sure. Apparently, the jury is going to decide the sentencing on the verdict of manslaughter. This could be anywhere from 2 years to 20 years, based on what they hear during this sentencing hearing, which I assume are aggravating factors and mitigating factors. It's interesting to see how different jurisdictions handle sentencing. I'm not sure I've seen this kind of, I've seen the jury decide between life and death, but not on a manslaughter charge. Usually there's a pretrial sentencing report that's done, and then the judge will review the report and then make a decision. So I don't know why they're doing it this way. So I assume we're waiting for the jury right now. So we're waiting for them to come back from their break that was supposed to end 9 minutes ago. It looked like everyone was back and that they were just getting the jury, and then they turned the camera off, the camera feed off. So I'm not sure what's going on. So we will just wait here.
Activities.
So what kind of functions or things y'all do in this club?
A lot of it was tangential to other activities that were happening in the Honors College. So each of us, as honors students, were required to complete additional duties in our coursework, and so we would talk about events on campus to attend, or lectures, or sharing study tips with one another. It was really just meant to kind of be a support and resource group.
Around November of 2004, did you have an incident with the defendant that happened there at UTA?
Yes.
Would you please tell us about what happened?
Yes. On November 18th, 2004, it was a Thursday. I had morning classes in the College of Business, accounting and systems analysis and design. My coursework ended about 11 a.m. that morning. And so typically I wore a suit to my classes, and I would change into more casual attire and go find a place to study on campus. My favorite place to study was the Honors College Library in College Hall. It's now known as the Carolyn Barrows Reading Room. So typically after I changed clothes, I would walk from the College of Business Administration to College Hall, and I would enter through a side door that led directly into that reading room. So that day, I walked up the steps to the side door, as I typically did, and I would tap on the glass of that door if I saw someone inside who could let me in. That day, I saw Aaron Dean in the room, and as I tapped on the glass, I saw that he was seated at the computer corral using one of the computers, and he quickly closed what appeared to be a browser window. It looked as though I couldn't be 100% sure what he was looking at, but it appeared to be like pictures of scantily clad women. He came to the door and let me in. I walked through the door. I set my bag. It had my laptop and my suit in it on a club chair just next to the door, and I walked into the room. There were a lot of conference tables and chairs in the room, and on one of those tables was that morning's edition of the Shorthorn, which is the campus newspaper at UT Arlington. I leaned over the table to look at the day's headlines, and as I did so, Aaron Dean came up behind me, and he wrapped his arms around my torso, and his hand grazed underneath my breast at the cup or the cradle of the brassiere that I was wearing. As he did so, he leaned into my ear and he whispered something to the effect of, "Does anyone know how great you are?" I believe that's what he said. I was really confused by this. I didn't understand why he was doing that. I pulled away from his attempted embrace. And I walked over to the chair where my bag was sitting, and I sat down in that chair. At that point, another individual walked into the room. It was someone that was also known to me, a friend of mine. And so we engaged in conversation briefly. And while I was speaking to this third individual, Aaron came and sat down on the chair next to me. So I'm sitting there with my laptop in my lap, and my friend left the room. And at this point, Aaron engaged me in conversation, and he asked me a question about a ring that I had on my finger. I reminded him that, because I was sure he already knew, but I reminded him that that ring was a promise ring that was given to me by my boyfriend at the time, who was studying at the University of Chicago. And Aaron said, "Well, that's too bad, because he really wanted me." And I realized at that point that he meant this in a kind of sexual manner, suggestive manner. And so I was a little taken aback. I asked him how long he felt that way. And he said, probably since he had seen me at a student leadership banquet earlier that year. And he mentioned that I was wearing a dress that he really liked, because he could see the tops of my breasts in this dress that I was wearing. And when he said that, he reached over in his chair and he took his finger and he placed it on my right breast, and he traced the outline of my breast with his hand on my body, touching me over my shirt. I spoke up at that point and said, "This is very inappropriate. You're making me uncomfortable. This is not, please don't touch me." And he asked me not to tell anyone what had happened. And I was very upset, so I left the room. I made a phone call on my cell phone to my boyfriend in Chicago. I asked him for advice what I should do. He suggested that I walk across the street to the student union, Davis Hall, and connect with an adult that I trusted downstairs in student leadership. And the adult that I trusted was Tim Tucker, who was head of judicial affairs at the university. And Tammy advised me that I should take a ride with one of her staff to the campus police department. And so I did. And so I made a report. And I believe Aaron was issued a citation for simple assault. The citation reads, "Unwanted and provocative physical contact."
Were you ever romantically involved with the defendant?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever flirt with the defendant?
No.
Had he ever shown any romantic interest in you before this incident?
Not to my recollection.
No further questions for the purposes of this hearing, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
We don't have any questions for this hearing, Judge.
I'm gonna let her, you have objections?
Yes.
Yes. Go up. You know what, do a favor, do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Clip that microphone, and you just step back, get it back in the hallway.
Clip my phone. Yes, sir.
Mr. Gill,
First of all, we object that we were not given any pre-trial notice that this witness would be testifying. We don't have any notice that this man would be testifying here today.
that objection is overruled.
We further object that a jury would not be able to believe this testimony beyond a reasonable doubt.
That objection is overruled. But I do have a limitation. I don't want her, she was not sure about what she thinks she may have seen on the laptop.
Okay.
Don't go into that.
Yes, sir. May I have a moment?
Absolutely.
Okay, and we are going to put this on the record, mark this for first the record.
Making you get your steps.
That's fine.
Put that back on.
Okay.
Ms. Diener.
Thank you, Your Honor. For purposes of just the record only, we plan to offer State's Exhibit 126, which is include all the incident report, as well as statements, some additional information, all provided us from regarding this UTA incident. This has all been provided to Defense Counsel. That's State's Exhibit 126, and I'll show them a copy in just a second. State's Exhibit 125 is a disclosure that we have provided via email to Defense Counsel prior to trial, and I can get the specific dates on that as well. It would have been in October of 2020. It would have been in October of 2021. And included in State's Exhibit 126, it indicates the full name of this particular witness, which is referenced in our witness list that was filed back in November of 2021. It specifically says KS, formerly known as ETC, provided reported TSP for full name. Included in State's Exhibit 126, it goes through and has a Elizabeth Catherine Sykes mentioned multiple times throughout the course of the report. So I'm going to provide them.
Motion to Dale. I'm listening.
So we'll offer those 125 and 126 for the record only.
Any objection for purposes of the record?
Your Honor, no, but if we, so we can find it in text share, they can tell us what the file name is in text share for the documents that they're marking, so we can compare it to the court's file mark copy of 3914.
All right.
This is back to the Mr. Lang with the paper files. We're trying to make sure we have everything.
Understand. So for purposes of the record, 125 and 126 are admitted right now, and we can work on the text share issue as we go throughout the day. Okay.
Well, yes and no, Your Honor. Yes, we can, but if it wasn't, I'm just trying to make sure, I take their word that it's turned over. I'm just trying to find it in here.
Okay.
And when it was turned over with an exact file name, because if you search the acronyms UT or UTA, that's not it.
All right. Mr. Smith's looking at it right now, so hang on just a minute.
Your Honor, I brought copies in triplicate, if that would be helpful.
We're talking about other stuff, don't worry.
Understood.
And for purposes of 125, that was an email provided to Defense Counsel. That's a disclosure that has been provided. It may also be in TSP as far as the emails, but it is an email.
Yeah, here it is.
didn't put all in my pocket. Okay, understood.
And is defendant satisfied with what's provided in TSP now that he's had opportunities?
Hold on one second.
No.
And Judge, it was provided to defense counsel, it looks like, on TSP under the name PR 416637 redacted. Period PDF, it's 5 megabytes, it was provided to them on 10/26, which is also the same day it was scanned into TSP. That was on October the 26th of 2021. And so it's gonna be a part of the 3914 paperwork as well. It's not anything additional we need to add.
Your Honor, since I see that now, finding it out, 300 so nice. Thank the state for that. We'd like an unredacted copy.
We don't have one. This is the information that was provided to us by UTA.
Law enforcement agency in Tarrant County, they're submitted, it's a law enforcement PDF. They're the chief law enforcement officer of the county. This is another ORI that's under the state. The defense doesn't have access to it. We ask for an unredacted copy.
I would just to be clear too, we actually got it from this particular witness. We did not get it via subpoena or through law enforcement. It was provided by this witness because she kept this part of her file. And so that was what was provided to her. We've never asked for a redacted copy of it from law enforcement, nor have we been.
Well, does it exist?
I would have to go inquire, Judge. I can't speak to whether it does or does not at this point. This is all that we have at this in our possession, but I can certainly.
Mr. Gill?
On the Kyles versus Whitley, Judge, the state is required to make a diligent inquiry of law enforcement on these matters. Apparently they haven't done so.
All right, check with UTA, see if they've got an unredacted copy. Do we have another witness that we could use, that we could do while y'all are working on that?
We just had Harry Carson, the witness, Your Honor, kind of do him last, that's okay. Yeah, we can make the phone call right now.
All right, let's be in recess until we, we'll be in recess until y'all give me some information, okay? All right.
So if you want to take that microphone.
So apparently what has happened, this was all outside the presence of the jury. The judge was trying to determine if this UTA incident that happened when he was in college is admissible. It goes against a prior ruling that he made before the trial that this incident wouldn't come into the trial, but whether it comes into the sentencing, it sounds like he's going to allow her testimony, but they wanted to admit a report that she made, but they didn't bother to get the unredacted copy of the report. The only copy they have is the copy that this woman handed to them, probably this morning on her way in. She said she brought it in triplicate. So the judge is requiring them to go get a formal copy of this report before he allows it into evidence and before he allows her to testify. The whole incident seems kind of fishy to me. I don't know. He put his arms around her, touched her breast. Is it inappropriate? Yeah. I don't know. He was not a stranger to her. This is someone that, she knew. So I don't know. I think she just doesn't like this guy. Sounds like. So we will hang out here until they come back. What the prosecution has one more witness, and it sounds like it's somebody with the last name of Carr. Now we know that the little boy that witnessed this shooting, his last name was Carr. So I don't know if it's, and the judge said, can we put this witness on? And the prosecution said, no, he wants to save them for last. So it sounds like the only other witness they have for today. And then they will turn it over to the defense. I don't know if this is a man or a woman, or it could be the Atatiana Jefferson's sister. Her last name is Carr. I'm not sure. I know yesterday when they broke after Hi One Crack Mom just popped in. What difference does touching a woman have to do with this trial? And it's in it to show his character. Yeah, just to show his character. Yeah, I if I was a juror, it would have very little impact on my ability to sentence this guy or what sentence I gave this guy. Yeah. So I think they're making a mountain out of a molehill here, but that's just my opinion. Yeah. But it's nice to have you here. Glad you stopped by. So we'll just hang out here, see what happens. How's everybody doing this morning? Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up when you're on your way in or out. Today, I don't have to go to the post office today. So I'm just hanging out here at home, and I thought, well, let's do this live. That way I don't have to, I can save, Monday for Murdoch Monday. It's getting close to Christmas. Things are wrapping up in the trial communities. Judges and lawyers are going on vacation. In fact, I doubt very seriously if there's any new trials for this next week. But, you never know. This was a very short trial. It didn't take them long at all. Prosecution put on a very short case, only 3 days. And as you guys know, the jury came back with a verdict of manslaughter, which was a lesser included offense to the charge that they were trying to get, which was murder. Crack Mom's going to do dishes and chores. Hey, I'm right there with you. I should be folding laundry. In fact, I should be folding laundry, but that'd be kind of rude. I have a blanket that's sitting in the dryer. It's not imperative that I go get it folded, but I'll need to do that sometime today. When it rained last week, the dogs, the Tootsie, she goes outside and in the backyard, and when it was raining, her paws would get all muddy, and then she would jump on my bed, and so my bedspread was just full of dirt, so I had to wash it. I just hate when she goes in the backyard when it rains. So I try to walk the dogs as much as I can so they don't go in the backyard and get all muddy. But sometimes it can't be prevented. Oh my God, that window is making noise again today. The wind, it's so windy here in Kansas. It's incredibly windy. And so I live in this old house that was built in the 1950s, and it's very drafty. And when the wind is going in a certain direction, it just makes this window noise that's horrendous. Luckily that it's not my bedroom, because I wouldn't be able to sleep with that noise. This is a converted garage that I film out of, so that's why. So stick around. Everyone will be back. They're making a phone call to see if they can get this report. I would have just said, okay, let's skip it. Let's move on. But I think the defense wants this woman's testimony, or the prosecution. Earlier today, they put on a psychologist who examined the defendant as part of his job application for the Fort Worth Police Department. And this psychologist concluded that he was not psychologically fit. He did not pass the psychological exam. So Aaron Dean appealed it and was examined by 3 other psychologists that said, yes, he was fit to be a police officer. So he was hired. So interesting testimony this morning. The guy said he had grandiose ideas. And that he had narcissistic tendencies. Okay. And that he could be controlling and that kind of thing. My ex-husband was a police officer, and he was not a narcissist, but I will tell you that there are a lot of cops out there that are narcissists. They go through that whole John Wayne syndrome when they first get to the job, and maybe the police departments are trying to weed that out now, those kind of people. Still, I don't know what that has to do with his sentencing. I'm looking at what else is going on YouTube. Chocolate cake. I'm getting chocolate cake recipes. Do I want to make a chocolate cake? Ooh. I made a carrot cake earlier in the week. It was so good. Well, it's still good. We still got most of it left. I made a big old cake, and it's just my sister and I. There goes the window again. My goodness. They're not going to be back very long before he calls a recess for lunch. I'm sure this jury is wondering what the holdup is. I need to work on this thing that I'm doing for the dogs, this hoodie. I need to work on that. Maybe later today. I did start it. Okay, they're back. I'm going to I will mute it once the judge comes out. I guess they got whatever it was they were needed. The report. the unredacted copy of the report that this woman made, that the defendant touched her. Well, he's going to prison. He can touch anybody he wants in prison. It might not get him anywhere. Won't be any women there, for sure. There he is. Looks like he is in custody.
Ten 27, and 10:21. This is 10:27.
Everyone may be seated. All right, I know there's some matters we need to place in the record, so Mr. Smith, go ahead.
All right, this time we offer State's Exhibits 127 and 128 for the record. 127 being an open records request from investigator Mo Brown with the Tarrant County DA's office asking for information about this witness. And this was opened in October of 2021 to the defense. And then also State's Exhibit 128 is a records request from the city of Arlington for any information on this Class C ticket, which has also been open to the defense since October 2021. We did not get either the city of Arlington did not have any records whatsoever for the ticket that was done in 2004 for this office.
For purposes of the record, any objections to 127 and 128?
Just a clarification, 127 is not a records request from the district attorney's office. It's a response back. It's on UTA letterhead. And 128 is an email. It looks like, well, I don't know, it's not. It's a document, whether it's an email or not is uncertain based on the format that it is. It's a web printout from some screen. It's page 1 of 3, but we only have one page here for State's 128.
Well, I'll let them in for purposes of the record. So is the state maintaining that you've made diligent search to try and find this document and that there has never been a response or any type of response to your request?
We've never had a response to our request.
Okay.
And Your Honor, just for purpose of the record, our investigator, Marvin Brown, on October the 13th of 2021 at approximately 9:50 in the morning, made an open records request to the city of Arlington, the city attorney, for some information regarding the November 2004 assault incident due to the city of Arlington Municipal Court observing the defendant's information in their system. They had no citation information. So based on that, our investigator did the following open records request. And then he also, on the same day, a few hours later, emailed the University of Texas at Arlington with a public records request for information pertaining to the November 2004 assault incident involving this defendant. He then uploaded the public response to TSP, and then as well as that additional document. So those have all been uploaded, but just for purposes of the record, to understand the context, it was our investigator that was requesting those items. And this is the information that was provided to him.
Judge, UTA has its own law enforcement agency. It has its own ORI. The request that Investigator Brown, Chief Investigator Brown, made was to the university, not to the law enforcement agency. And then he also made the second exhibit was a request to the city of Arlington, which is a separate law enforcement agency. And at the time of this event in 2004, UTA had its own police department. The request and the due diligence under Kyles versus Whitley was not done because they also had the ability to issue grand jury subpoenas during the investigation or court subpoenas once the case was indicted, and they've done none of that to fulfill their duties under Kyles versus Whitley.
All right, I'm going to overrule the defense's objection, and we're going to proceed.
Can we have a line objection, Your Honor?
You may. We ready?
State's ready.
Yes.
Okay. You may remain seated and the clerk will- All right, everyone may be seated. We are ready to proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, this witness has been previously sworn to testify truthfully. Mr. Smith?
Would you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Turner.
And Ms. Turner, in what city do you live?
I live in Fort Worth, Texas.
And without getting into where you work, what do you do for a living?
I work in financial services in a project management office.
What do you do is in a project management office dealing with financial services?
I lead projects and initiatives related to technology and finance.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been with my current employer for 8 years. I've been working as a project manager in the intersection of technology and finance since I was 19 years old.
Did you graduate college at 19?
I graduated college at 20 with a baccalaureate in information systems. It was an honors bachelor's degree and a master's of information systems with a concentration in project management from the University of Texas at Arlington.
All at 20.
That's correct.
So when did you start at UTA?
I enrolled at the age of 14 in the spring semester of 2001.
Tough going to school at 14? Going to college at 14, I mean?
It was an experience.
So what'd you do before you went to college? Where were you educated before then?
I was homeschooled.
So whenever you got to UTA, were you a part of any clubs or did you create a club?
Yes, I was very involved in campus activities. I served as a member, multiple terms as a member of Student Congress. I was a university ambassador, was vice president of the Spirit Team, vice president of the Association of IT Professionals, and I also created a student-led organization called Homeschool Graduates at UTA.
Now, in November, don't give me the date, but what year were you born?
I was born in 1986.
1986. So November of 2004, you would have been 18?
That's correct.
Do you recognize someone in the courtroom you know as Aaron Dean?
Yes,
Would you point to that person and identify him for the record?
the gentleman standing.
May the record reflect the witness identified the defendant in open court.
Record will so reflect.
How do you know the defendant?
I was acquainted with Aaron Dean when he became a member of Homeschool Graduates at UTA.
And what were the homeschool graduates of UTA?
Homeschool Graduates at UTA was a student-led organization. We petitioned the university with signatures of about 20 members to become official. Once we had achieved official status, we met at intervals in the Honors College to acclimate to the college experience together and share resources about campus life, time management, and study skills.
And so was the defendant a member of that club?
That's correct. He was one of the members.
Did you know him very well?
I saw him at intervals when we would have club meetings, occasionally various honors college events on campus.
So did something happen in November of 2004 with you and the defendant?
Yes.
And what happened?
On November 18th, 2004, was a Thursday, and I had finished my accounting and systems analysis and design courses about
Non-responsive.
Just a- Let's keep the question and answer.
You got it. So what class did you just finish?
I had just finished my accounting, principles of accounting and systems analysis and design.
And what did you usually wear to that class? What type of, did you dress up for it?
I typically wore a suit to my classes in the College of Business.
And so what did you do after that if you typically wore a suit to class?
After class, I changed into a hoodie and sweatpants, and I headed over to the Honors College Library to study.
And what's that Honors College Library now called?
It's called the Carolyn A. Barrows Reading Room. It's in Suite 100 of College Hall.
And what kind of place is this?
It's a quiet place where students can study. In 2004, it was. There were like conference tables with seating. There was a corral with about 2 or 3 computers at it that students can use, and there were a couple of club chairs facing a wall of bookcases, which housed all of the honors theses from each of the honor students before they graduated.
When you got to that reading room, was there anyone else there?
Yes, Aaron was seated at one of the computer corrals.
What did you do once you got into the reading room?
When I came into the reading room, I thanked Aaron for opening the door for me. I placed my laptop bag on a club chair just next to her, and I walked to one of the conference tables where that morning's issue of the Shorthorn lay open on the table.
And what happened after that?
When I walked over to the table to look at that morning's Shorthorn and just skim the headlines, Aaron came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my torso. His left hand kind of skirted the cup of my brassiere, and he leaned into my ear and whispered, "Has anyone ever told you how great you are?"
Were you romantically involved with the defendant at this point?
Absolutely not.
Had you ever been romantically involved with him?
Absolutely not.
Had you ever shown any interest in being romantically involved with him?
No. In fact, I had a boyfriend and was wearing a promise ring from my boyfriend at the time.
What did you do after he whispered in your ear?
I broke away from his embrace and I walked over to the chair where my belongings were. And I took a seat in the chair to pull out my laptop and put it in my lap. At that same time, a friend of mine walked into the room, and so I began a short conversation with the person.
Did that friend stay in the room for long?
No, we briefly chatted. They actually asked about my boyfriend, so we talked about plans for William to come visit over New Year's Eve.
And what happened after that conversation with your friend?
While I was talking with my friend, Aaron came and sat in the chair just adjacent to mine. And when the friend left, Aaron began to ask me questions about the ring I was wearing and about my boyfriend.
What did you tell him about the ring you were wearing?
I indicated that it was a promise ring because William and I were dating long distance, and it was just a token of our relationship at the time.
And did he have a response to that?
Yeah, he said that was too bad because he really wanted me.
Did anything else happen after he said that?
I mean, when he said that, I was kind of taken aback because we had literally just been talking about my boyfriend and how much I cared for him and him coming to visit me and me wearing a promise ring. So I asked him how long had he felt that way. And he said that probably since he had seen me earlier in the year at a student leadership banquet. I was wearing a dress that he described as a really great dress because he could see the top of my breasts. And while he said that, he took his finger and touched my right breast and traced the outline of the breast with his hand. So touching my body over my hoodie that I was wearing.
What'd you do?
I was deeply upset. I was, again, very taken aback. I told him immediately that he was making me uncomfortable, and asked him not to do that.
And did he stop?
Yeah, he pulled his hand away. He asked me not to tell anyone what had happened, and I grabbed my bag and I left the room.
Where'd you go?
Well, I was very upset. I believe I had started to cry. I actually took my cell phone and called my boyfriend in Chicago to ask what
Jackson, the question was, where did she go?
6 minutes.
Okay, so you talked to your boyfriend on the phone. Did he console you?
Yes, he suggested that I go find an adult that I trusted.
Objection.
Just try and answer the question yes or no if it calls for a yes or no answer, okay?
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith?
What advice did he give you?
My boyfriend suggested that I find an adult on campus that I trusted. And given that I was just outside College Hall, he suggested that I go across the street to the student union and find someone in student leadership.
Who did you find in student leadership?
I went down to the basement and spoke to Tammy Tucker, the head of Student Judicial Affairs.
And did you know Tammy Tucker?
I did. I was familiar with her because of my student leadership activities.
Did you trust her?
Yes.
Did you trust her advice?
Yes.
After talking to her, did she give you some advice on what to do next?
Yes, Tammy suggested that I take a ride with a member of her staff to the campus police department where I could leave a report.
Did you make a report with the campus police department?
Yes, I did. I gave a verbal report. I made a written statement regarding the event. And I also signed a separate statement regarding feeling offended by his disregard for my personal boundaries.
And as a result of that report, what happened?
I believe Aaron was either arrested or issued a citation, and I believe he pled no contest and paid a fine.
No further questions, Your Honor. Pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Commissioner, did you say something about filling out a witness statement or a personal statement?
Yes.
Just one.
Does the state have a copy?
It was provided via TSP to the defense. I'm gonna give another copy right now.
I'm letting you look at it.
Your Honor, for purposes of the record, this was provided to the defense on October 26th, 2021.
Thank you.
On TSP.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You say that this event occurred in November of 2004,
Yes,
is that right? So approximately 18 years ago,
yes,
that's right?
that is correct.
You were 18 years of age at the time,
That is correct.
and Aaron was around the same age you were, isn't that right?
I believe he was a 19-year-old sophomore at the time.
Okay, so is that an age that's somewhere around the age of 18?
It is over 18.
It's around the age of 18?
It's a year older than 18.
And this, you were in the an honors library at the time?
Yes, the Honors College Library.
And is there a certain select group of students that are allowed to get into that honors library?
Honors College students typically use the library.
The group, the homeschool graduates group that you were involved in,
Yes, I founded the group.
founded the group. Aaron was a member of the group.
That is correct.
And isn't it true that one of the reasons that group was founded is because kids that are homeschooled have some adjustment issues that kids that go to public schools or private, more formal schools don't have, isn't that right?
I would, yes,
If there's some adjustment issues that have to do with the way you,
perhaps.
but also some issues that have to do with social adjustment, is that right?
I think there are a variety of challenges that are unique to homeschool graduates attending a formal university for the first time.
And it's one of those issues of social adjustment.
Campus life and experience would be one of those aspects.
Okay, so my question was socially, do kids that have been homeschooled have social adjustment issues? What's your answer to that question?
As a former homeschooler myself, I would be a bit reluctant to claim that homeschoolers are socially maladjusted.
I didn't say socially maladjustment, I said that they have adjustment
That
issues.
homeschoolers would have social adjustment issues.
So when you were homeschooled, how many kids were in your class?
Typically a class of one.
When you got to UTA, how many kids were in the class? Typical class.
In my first college class, computer science ethics, there were over 100 students in the class.
Pretty big difference, right?
Yes,
Now, you wrote out a 5-page statement for the UTA police, is that right?
that is correct.
And isn't it true that in that statement that you told them that Aaron had traced over your breast, is that right?
That's correct.
And that you told them that what you told him at that time was that was very flattering, but that he was making you uncomfortable.
That's correct.
And something else that you kind of left out earlier was that he apologized to you, didn't he?
He did.
Judge, we passed it.
Read the record.
No further questions, Your Honor.
And Ms. Turner be excused subject to any potential recall.
No objection from the state.
You may.
Thank you.
state calls it Darius Carr. Mr. Carr, come up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this witness has been previously sworn to testify truthfully. Mr. Smith?
Would you introduce yourself to the jury, please, sir?
My name is Darius Carr. I'm Atatiana Jefferson's older brother.
I'm sorry, I think we were working on the microphone. Could you do that again, please, sir?
My name is Darius Carr. I'm Atatiana Jefferson's oldest brother.
Darius, how are you currently employed?
I'm currently actively in the military station in San Diego, California.
Okay, you talk real fast, so
Slow down.
slow down, all right?
What do you do for the Navy out in San Diego?
My current job, I drive the small boats and the big ships.
How long have you been in the Navy?
I've been Navy 15 years.
Where all have you been stationed?
My first duty station was Yokosuka, Japan, followed by Cedar Bay, Greece, Norfolk, Virginia, and then San Diego,
Where'd you grow up?
Dallas, Texas.
And could you tell us who's your mom?
My mother's name is Yolanda Carr.
And when you grew up, how many sisters did you have?
I have 3 sisters. We call ourselves the 18. My mom calls her 18. My older sister's name is Ashley. I'm the second oldest of Darius. My sister after me is Amber, and my baby sister we call her Kay. Atatiana.
That was your best friend? Were you close with her?
Very close. She was my best friend, I would say.
What made y'all so close?
Being the only boy in a family full of women, she was the tomboy. She was the one who, if I was playing basketball, she was playing with me. If I was hanging out with my friends, she was playing with me. Video games, and I'm pretty sure I'm the reason she started playing.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school at John Horn in Mesquite,
Where did Tatiana go to high school?
Duncanville.
What did she do after she graduated high school?
She made up her mind to go to Xavier. He couldn't tell anything different. She wanted to go to state. She had to go to Xavier.
Where's Xavier?
That's Louisiana.
What was she gonna study?
She always wanted to be a doctor. I've never heard her say anything else. School was super easy for her. I was almost jealous. I was a BC student. She was always straight A's, kind of flawlessly.
Why did she want to be a doctor?
She got diagnosed with diabetes preteens, and she wanted to cure it.
Do you remember when she graduated from Xavier?
I don't remember the year exactly.
How many years before she was shot did she graduate from Xavier? Do you remember?
So 2 or 3 at the most.
After she graduated, where did she move to?
Moved back home. Helped mom out.
Was that back in Dallas?
Mom had bought a place in Fort Worth.
And again, what's your mom's name?
Yolanda Carr.
And are we talking about that same house that you've been in the courtroom for this entire trial, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Is it the same house that we've seen pictures of?
Yes, 1203 East Island.
And why'd you move back with your mom?
Mom was having some health problems. Amber was having health problems. And she was just at home helping out while she saved money.
Okay, so what kind of health problems was your mom having?
Heart problems, which apparently passed on to Amber.
And what kind of health problems was Amber having at that time?
Heart problems as well.
So how many kids does Amber have?
She has 2 sons,
What are their names?
Zion and Zadie.
Zion and Zadie. So where was Zion living while your sister Amber was sick?
Amber got sick first, so Zion moved in with mom, and then mom got sick, so Kay covered down to help out.
So when you say Amber got sick, did she get sick and go somewhere else, or?
She went to the hospital, so she couldn't watch us.
And then when Yolanda got sick, your mom, where did she go?
She went to the hospital as well.
So when we go back to October of 2019, both Amber and your mom Yolanda were in the hospital?
Yes, sir.
And so who was taking care of Zion?
Kay was taking care of him full time.
Full time, taking care of her nephew. How did you find out that Atatiana had been shot?
I want to say the next morning, I remember being in the kitchen cooking breakfast for my pregnant fiance at the time. I got a call from my big sister, Ashley. I knew mom was in the hospital, I knew Amber was in the hospital, so I kind of figured it was a call by one of them. She answered the phone and she just told me up front, I don't know how to tell you this, but Tay's gone. I remember not believing it for a little while. I had to call my command and let them know I was going on emergency leave. Bought a ticket and flew straight to Texas.
What was it like when you got back to Texas?
Very different. We had to fact find and figure out what happened because we didn't know anything. We couldn't have her body or remains. Planned a funeral. Mom was ailing, so we couldn't really help her.
Did y'all end up having a funeral?
Yes, sir, we did.
It's a big funeral,
Yeah, pretty big.
good service.
Yes, sir.
Was your mom, Yolanda, able to be there?
No, we tried many ways and tried ambulances and air, and we knew if we moved her from the hospital, it wouldn't be the best interest for her.
Is Yolanda with us today?
No, sir.
What happened to Yolanda?
She died exactly 90 days after Tay did.
In the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 89. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What's that a picture of?
My sisters came out to visit me in 2018 before one of my deployments. They hadn't had a chance to visit an overseas tour, so I was really happy they had a chance to come out.
So I see you and four women. Who's the fourth woman?
Our cousin Reese, she grew up with us.
Okay, starting on your left, can you identify each person in this picture?
To my left is Amber, then it's me, my cousin Reese, then Ashley, and then Atatiana.
At this time, Your Honor, State would offer State's Exhibit 89 for all purposes.
No further objection, Judge.
Your previous objections remain overruled and states exhibit, your objections are overruled. States Exhibit 89 is admitted.
Your Honor, permission to publish using the board. I think
Yes,
we're
sir.
warming it up.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
All right. It's C-E-R-E-E-S-E.
Say it again.
C-E-R-E. I'm gonna mess it up. I'm not too sure.
Okay, Darius, again, if you could start from the juror's left and your left, identify everybody in this picture.
Yes. To my left is the first person that pictures my sister Amber Carr. I'm in the middle. The lady next to me is my cousin Cerise, and then Ashley, and then Atatiana.
Tatiana's on the far right.
Yes, sir.
What did all y'all do out there in San Diego on this trip?
That's one of the highest points in San Diego. It's a veteran museum memorial called Mount Helix. I just showed them San Diego as much as I could. Good weather, tacos. We took a cruise on the water, showed them the naval base.
How long were they out there?
Also about a week, sir.
Did Tatiana enjoy it?
Every bit of it.
Was that one of the last times you saw Tatiana?
That was the last time I saw my sister.
Where's Amber this week?
She's currently in the hospital again, pneumonia in her left lung.
Was she here at the beginning of the trial?
Yes.
When did she check herself into the hospital?
Wednesday, first week of trial.
We'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
We don't have any questions, Judge.
May Mr. Carr be excused subject to potential recall.
Yes, Your Honor. And by agreement, he's been in the courtroom.
Understand. That's correct. Smith.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state would reoffer all evidence from the guilt innocence phase.
And the court will re-admit it subject to any potential rulings on objections that remain the same.
And Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state rests its punishment case.
Let me see, counsel. I'll go get it. 10-minute recess, sir. 10 minutes.
That was interesting. They didn't really have a whole lot similar to their case in chief. They didn't have a whole lot. I would have thought we would have heard from other family members, but that seemed very odd. More victim impact statements, but I really am puzzled by this whole thing, to be honest with you, because I've never heard of a jury deciding a sentence in a manslaughter case. It's between 2 and 20 years is what he's facing. And what they would come back would only be a recommendation. The judge would have to enforce, enter a judgment on the sentence. So I'm assuming that what they just happened is he called them up to see if the defense was going to offer any witnesses and how long those would take, and are they ready, or do you want to go to lunch first? I think that was probably a whole discussion. So they're going to come back in 10 minutes. So how's everybody doing today? I hope you guys, if you missed the midwife felony child abuse trial verdict, that's under another thumbnail. It's a red thumbnail that says verdict live. We listened to that this morning. Super interesting. And then at the end of that video is the psychologist's testimony in this case that we were listening to, because I just went ahead and switched it over this morning so we could hear that. Then when the judge took a break, I switched it over to this. I switched the feed over to this thumbnail because it was kind of confusing. And Robin went to bed. She's in Australia. It's the middle of the night there. It's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It's about time she went to bed. Good morning, Mickey. I saw Mickey sneak in. How are you? She's like, oh my God. She woke me up. You set the timer to see if their break will be 10 minutes. Oh, yeah. Good luck, Kat. If you can usually double it. If they say 10, it means 20. If they say 15, it means 30. If they say an hour, it means an hour and a half. Yeah. Very interesting. I'm getting hungry too, man. I'm ready for my bologna sandwich. I love bologna sandwiches. Oh, I just spilled a bunch of drills. How did that happen? Huh. Actually, I can see them better on this piece of paper. That's funny. I'm going to leave them there. So my sister started Christmas painting last night. It's the Fireside Christmas by Diamond Art Club, and she had just done the Polar Express from Diamond Art Club, and she said that it's like night and day. That the drills on the Polar Express were much better. Now the Fireside Christmas is a couple years old, so interesting. So if you have an older Diamond Art Club kit, you may not get the drills you'd hoped for. I have hair everywhere. I'm losing all my hair. Mickey says, I'm here. That's all I can say. Just woke up. Wow, you slept in today. Good for you. I was up late watching. Well, not late. I think I fell asleep actually early last night, 10 o'clock. I was watching the British baking show. And I love to bake, but I haven't heard the stuff that they bake, I've never heard of, unfortunately. If I was on that show and they asked me to bake something, I would be very confused. Because I think they call cookies biscuits, and it'd just be very confusing to me. Where are we on the timer, Kat? Kat's timing the judge. I'm actually trying to finish this painting up. I've got 2 large sections open, and that's all I have left to finish it. So I'm trying to finish up. And then after that, I'm going to work on this other project, the dog thing. This dog hoodie. I started it. Haven't worked on it since I started it. So I need to 4 minutes, 33 seconds. Look at that. She's counting down. I'll show you where I got on this. I got this much of it done. You guys can barely see it there. So let's see. I was on row 2, I think. No. 1, 2, 3, row 4. I think it's just single crochets. And then once I do the 5th row, I'll change colors again, change to the purple color. Maybe I'll work on that. I think it's single crochets. Single crochet, repeat rows 1 through 5, single crochet. Yeah. That's easy. And of course, my window is making a bunch of noise today. I apologize for that. The wind is going crazy outside. Coffee break. Yep. One crack, Mom. Coffee break. I imagine we're going to get in, hopefully. I don't know. I don't know who the defense is putting on. The sick cow. Yes, Cat. That's what it is. I'm just glad it's not my bedroom that happens. Oh my God, I would be. So yesterday I went over to this window and tried to fiddle with it to get it to stop. And the window is like, I can't even get it open. I would have to move so much stuff. There's just too much stuff there for me to have to move to get to that window. So the window cracks are up. Yeah. It does sound like somebody farting though, doesn't it? I do kind of want to get these little hoodies done because it's supposed to get really cold next week, maybe even snow. Of course, right before Christmas, not on Christmas, but right before. All right, I think we've passed the 10-minute mark. When it's really windy here, the eaves howl. I always say, hello, Moana, Moana. That's funny. Oh my God, there it goes. Oh. Sometimes Duncan sounds like that. Oh, 42 seconds. You're funny. She's resetting the timer for another 10 minutes. There you go. There we go. Yes, the jury did hear that, Cat.
Mr. Gill, is the defense ready to proceed?
We are.
All right, state ready for the jury? Hello,
State's ready?
and defense is ready?
We are.
All right, let's go. All right, everyone may be seated. Does the defense wish to present any evidence?
We do, Your Honor.
Mr. Gill?
We call Tim Foster.
Tim Foster. Come up, please, sir. Would you raise your right hand for me? Solemnly swear or affirm testimony given this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the true self you got.
That's right.
There's a rule of procedure in effect that you can't be in court unless you're testifying. Once you have testified, don't discuss your testimony with anybody else, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Judge. Would you tell us your name, please?
Tim Foster.
Microphone on there.
Yes.
Mr. Foster, do you live here in the Fort Worth area?
Just outside of Fort Worth. West Dubuque.
And how long have you lived here?
33 years,
How old a man are you?
55.
While you've been living here in the Fort Worth area, have you come to know a person by the name of Aaron Dean?
Yes,
And this is Aaron over here, two people to my right at the end of the table?
yes.
How long have you known Aaron?
Probably 8, maybe 10 years.
And how do you know Aaron?
We went to the same church for several years, a number of years.
Well, what church is that?
Redeemer Church, Fort Worth,
And whereabouts in Fort Worth?
on the west side of Fort Worth.
And how large a church is a Redeemer Church?
150, 180 people.
And Aaron was a member there?
Yes.
How about the rest of his family?
His parents and 2, maybe 3 siblings.
Do you know approximately how many siblings there are altogether?
There's 6 kids altogether.
And several of them went to church
Yes,
with Aaron and his parents.
correct.
Did you become involved in church activities with Aaron?
Yes.
What kind of activities would you be involved in?
We were involved with the music. So he would run the soundboard on occasion, and I would play musical instruments,
So what musical instrument do you play?
bass guitar.
Does Aaron also play a musical instrument?
Yes.
What does he play?
He's classical piano, rather accomplished. He may play other musical instruments. I'm not sure.
Is there a particular musical project that you worked on with Aaron for a number of years?
In addition to working regular Sunday mornings, he would put together a musical program every year with a lot of his friends from his previous years, all the way through high school and college, if I'm not mistaken. And they would put on a recital or around time of Christmas, a Christmas program that would involve 20-ish people of rather accomplished musicians and vocalists. And on 2 occasions, he had invited me to join with them and play.
And did you find that to be a positive experience?
Definitely. I was in way over my head.
Okay. So in what ways was that a positive experience for you?
Well, just the Advent season, the Christmas time, being able to participate in something like that, being able to rub shoulders with musicians who are far more accomplished than myself, and those were all a good experience, and they were well attended.
So what was Aaron's part in that Christmas program?
Well, he directed the whole thing, and he may have collaborated with someone else to direct it, but he put the thing on, did all the arrangements and planned the whole thing.
So have you had a chance to spend quite a bit of time around him during that and then other church activities?
Yeah, a good bit of time.
And what kind of person have you found Aaron to be?
Dependable, upright, noble. Those would be a few adjectives that I would use to describe him.
Have you seen him interact with other people?
Yeah.
And how does he interact with other folks?
A humble servant would be a good way to describe him. If we had something to do, he would always be there on time, and do his job thoroughly with a high degree of proficiency.
How did he treat other people?
Upstanding. He'd be the kind of person that I would want involved with anything that I would do.
Was he a domineering person?
No.
Was he an egotistical person?
That's not how I would describe him, no.
Did he believe that he was superior to other people?
I never saw anything like that.
How would you describe it?
Accomplished, multi-talented. He has
vast knowledge of physics, mathematics, science, astronomy, music. The man's forgotten more music theory than I've ever learned. He's also into woodworking, which is another shared interest.
Does he, is he there for other people when they need him?
I haven't necessarily seen him in those kinds of things, but I would not be surprised if someone said, hey, Aaron's doing this or that for another person. I wouldn't be surprised at all to hear that.
Has he done things for you?
Nothing specific comes to mind. I mean, just sharing in conversation and things like that. The last few times that we've met, I've gone out of my way to see to it that he was taken care of and did not want him to do anything for me. So,
To your knowledge, has Aaron ever been convicted of a felony in Texas or any other state?
not right now.
Pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
No questions for this witness, Your Honor.
May Mr. Foster be excused subject to any potential recall?
You may.
No objection from the state.
You'll unclip that microphone, thank you. You're free to go. Who do you have next?
Christina Livingston.
Solemnly swear or affirm testimony given this cause with the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Put the microphone on for us, please. And if you can make sure that your hair stays back behind you, okay? Thank you. Mr. Brissett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Christina Livingston.
Ms. Livingston, what do you do for a living?
I work with Tarrant County Community Supervision and Corrections Department.
Would that also be known as Tarrant County Probation to some?
Yes,
How long have you been with the Community Supervision Department?
22 years.
Where are you currently assigned?
I'm currently assigned in the 396 District Courtroom.
For the last couple of weeks, we've turned your desk and your office in the courtroom sideways for the judge's smartboard. Your office is normally right over here on the docket day, is it not?
It is.
And you have a formal office across the street at the main probation building, is that correct?
That's correct.
What do you do as a senior court officer for a judge like Judge Gallagher?
Basically, I'm the a mediation person between Tarrant County CSCD and the courtroom.
And I forgot to ask you earlier, CSCD is the acronym for Community Supervision and Corrections Department, right?
Yes, it is.
So CSCD, how many officers you're one of how many approximately, you know?
I am one of 163.
Cases either go by three ways, I guess, if they've been indicted. They're either dismissed, they're either a plea bargain to reach between the parties, or there's a trial, correct?
Correct.
Do you get cases that are given to you after somebody's before a jury and a jury awards probation?
Yes.
And do you, as the bulk of your cases, since we only try 4% of our jury trials, 4% of our cases, most of your work comes from plea bargains between the state and the defense attorney about a particular client, is that correct?
That's correct.
When somebody is placed on probation in Judge Gallagher's court, for example, are there certain terms and conditions that are standard for all defendants that are on probation?
Yes, there is.
I direct your attention to the desk in front of you. I believe there's Defendant's Exhibit 52 in front of you. Do you recognize that two-page document?
I do.
And is that something I asked you to prepare here today to go over with the court?
Yes.
What is Defendant's 52?
These are standard conditions of community supervision.
And that would be standard conditions that are imposed to a probationer here in Judge Gallagher's court?
Yes.
We'd offer defendants 52.
Can I just see a copy of it? As long as it's a standard probation conditions that have been provided, then I don't have any objection.
It's right up here.
It's the
May I
exact-
approach?
Yes.
And for the record, it's the exact same copy she gave both of us at the break.
Then I don't have any objection to it, Judge.
State, defendant's exhibit 52 is admitted.
What are some of the standard conditions of probation that a probationer can be given by a judge such as Judge Gallagher?
Some of the standard conditions include not committing any new offenses, reporting to the office, usually it's a month, keeping all the court dates, avoiding persons and places of disruptive or harmful character, permitting the supervision officer to visit the person at their home or elsewhere, work faithfully in suitable employment, furnish proof of employment to their officer, provide a valid and accurate address at all times while they're on probation, beginning the date of probation throughout the end of probation.
Now, there are a number of hours. Mr. Dean has been convicted by this jury of manslaughter. That's a second-degree felony. There's a tiered system for community service hours in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure that you're aware of, correct?
Correct.
What is the minimum number of community service hours a candidate, if awarded probation by a jury, would have to do as part of their probation?
It would be 240 hours.
Does the CSC Department of Tarrant County employ a Texas risk assessment test to all defendants on probation?
They do.
Can you explain to members of the jury a little bit about that testing and why it's there?
The assessment basically assesses the risk of the probationer if they will recidivate.
And it's a series of questions and tests, and based on that initial diagnostic test, additional tests could be ordered by probation if they see fit, correct?
Correct.
Is it my understanding that a person's placed on probation, they have to, upon release from custody, they have to go to this assessment center, and the assessment center is like a diagnostic series of tests from urinalysis to the mental side to see what programs or treatment a probationer needs, correct?
Correct. Not immediately after, but soon after.
Your policy, I think, if I understand it right, Ms. Livingston, is within 2 weeks, they're supposed to have the initial assessment test done, and then based on that, additional tests can take place. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say, yes.
Judge Gallagher's court handles felony level offenses, those that a jail sentence is greater than a year. Yes?
Yes.
On probation currently, do you have people that have committed assaultive offenses that have been placed on probation through plea agreements with the state of Texas?
Yes.
Do you have people on probation that have had various amounts of illegal controlled substances, drugs?
Yes.
Do you have people on probation that you're currently supervising through plea agreements that have committed burglary by habitation,
Yes.
aggravated kidnapping,
Yes.
aggravated assault,
Yes.
aggravated robbery,
Yes.
intoxication manslaughter,
Yes.
intoxication assault?
Yes.
It's common that these types of crimes are awarded probation through plea agreements and accepted by the court on a regular basis in this building. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say, yes.
Does CSCD of Tarrant County have the ability to supervise and structure a treatment program for rehabilitation for an individual convicted of the offense of manslaughter, in your opinion?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Does CSCD of Tarrant County, each individual probationer's treatment during probation or their rehabilitation is done on an individual basis, correct?
Correct.
You try to tailor a program to fit a particular given defendant, yes?
Yes.
As much as you can. I understand it's not one size fits all, but it's not micromanaged, but you do your best to get it down to where it's a program that can be taken care of and treat specific issues as there are, yes?
Yes.
Does probation have is probation capable of handling somebody that has been convicted of manslaughter?
Yes.
And there's two different types of probation. In my understanding, there's one that takes place without a trial as one type of probation called deferred adjudication. That's not what a jury would be awarding probation if they were, correct?
That's correct.
The other type is straight probation. Can you explain what straight probation is to you?
Straight probation means the person is already convicted.
Do you have people on straight probation for serious felonies, what you consider serious felonies here in the state of Texas?
Yes.
And you and your team are able to supervise them, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are there also abilities to place additional conditions in addition to what's been admitted as defendants 52? You have a whole electronic monitoring that you can place on individuals, is that correct?
That's correct.
You have testing and capabilities, you talked about monthly reporting, you have individuals that report on a weekly basis, correct?
That's correct.
Probation has individuals that have to call on a daily basis to see if they have to come in, correct? For drug testing.
That's correct.
So if I use a phrase, there's a board to fit everybody's backside, you have the way to get somebody's attention if you need to on probation.
Generally, yes.
Okay. In order to get straight probation, it has to be someone that's eligible, has never been convicted of a felony in this state, any other state of the United States. To your understanding, yes?
Not for straight probation, but for deferred probation.
For straight probation, we have to prove, we're in a jury trial stage, so it defers out the window. If it's proven that somebody has never been convicted of probation in this state, any other state, in the United States,
That's correct.
prior to the, they're eligible for probation.
Yes.
Apologize for the coughing, pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Defense just asked you about weekly reporting and calling in daily. That's not a part of the defense exhibit, the standard conditions of probation, correct?
Correct. It's not stated directly in there, but it's pretty much do it as directed.
Sure. And you said earlier that the standard conditions include checking in generally once a month.
Correct.
And normally, as part of the standard conditions of probation, the probationer is not getting any kind of ankle monitor or GPS system, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's not something that this judge typically does in directing you with the standard conditions of probation, correct?
That's correct.
And you were also asked about the amount of probation or the different types of probationers that are in this court. Can you tell me generally about how many folks you got on probation in the 396 District Court?
I don't have the general number out of this court, but I do have the general number department-wide.
All right, so department-wide, would that cover all the felony courts or is that all the misdemeanor courts as well?
I have both numbers.
All right, let's talk about the felony courts. We got 11 district courts that are 11 felony courts in this building, correct?
Correct.
All right, so out of 11 district courts, how many probationers in total do you have?
As of November this year, 10,718.
10,718 people that are on probation for felony offense, is that right?
That's correct.
All right, so doing just the basic math, you're gonna talk, that's basically gonna be a little bit under 1,000, thank you, 974 probationers in each court, if we're just doing an average.
Correct.
So around 1,000 folks that this judge in particular is responsible for, and as well as you, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you weren't asked these questions, but I want us to educate the jury regarding a field officer versus a court officer. So you are a court officer, right?
That's correct.
What does it mean to be a field officer?
The field officer is the one who supervises the people that are on probation.
So do you not yourself supervise that person?
No, I do not.
Okay. So when you were asked questions by defense counsel regarding the types of supervision, that's going to be the field officer that's having that contact, correct?
That's correct.
And would they be the ones that determine if that person needs to have more close contact, maybe weekly or calling in daily, or would that be this judge?
It could be either one. More than likely, the field officer would be the one making the recommendation.
And typically speaking, though, when we talk about the conditions of probation, they start off from a place of they're going to report about once a month, right?
That's correct.
And when we say report, they actually have to come up to this building or somewhere different.
They go over to the field service unit, whichever office they get assigned to.
And when they go over there to the field office and talk to their supervision officer, about how long are they spending with them?
It ranges. It could be at least 15 minutes or it could be an hour. It just depends on what the situation is and what they're doing at that visit.
And typically, the first time they're going and talking to the CSCD field officer, they're going to go over all these conditions, right?
That's correct.
All the expectations of this judge, right?
Right.
And make sure they understand what is expected of them, correct?
That's correct.
That first meeting is probably going to be a bit longer than maybe those check-ins as they get through probation, right?
That's correct.
So in general, you said as little as 15, sometimes an hour, but we're not having a whole lot of interaction with these folks once a month, right?
Not necessarily if you're only counting the office visit alone.
And there are also home visits.
Yes.
And do we see that on the conditions of, the standard conditions of community supervision?
Yes.
Okay, and how often, even though it says permit the supervision officer to visit your home or elsewhere at the time, is that something that's typically done where the probation officers are going out to these 974 folks' houses?
Not every month.
Okay, and so can you give me an idea about, let's just say of an entire year, how many of the probationers, is it half that y'all are going out to their houses, less than half?
Usually the priority is with their risk level. So the higher risk, they get more home visits.
Okay, so let's talk about the risk level. Risk assessments are done by whom?
We have an assessment unit that does the assessments initially, and then the field officer will do it from then forward.
And so for risk assessment, when we start talking about, is it low, medium, high? What are the different ranges?
It's basically low, medium, high is the basic ranges.
Do you know about how many high-risk probationers you guys have in this court, roughly?
I do not.
But if we've got about 1,000 folks, any idea if it's about half of those folks are high risk? Or don't know for sure?
I know for sure.
But when we talk about the risk assessment, that is based on the information in part of what the defendant, the probationer, tells them, correct?
Correct. Part of it is.
And what are the other parts? We have prior criminal history, right?
Correct.
Okay. Any violent offenses, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What else is considered?
For the assessment, we also go through what information that we do have and then related to it, the information the defendant says.
Okay, explain that to me. What do you mean, what information you do have and as it relates to what the defendant tells you?
For example, if we have a new offense, not a new offense, but let's say we look at the criminal history and the defendant is underreporting what is on the criminal history, we would trump it with the actual criminal history.
I gotcha. But if somebody doesn't have any criminal history, then that's going to be a factor into the risk assessment, correct?
Correct.
Any documented criminal history, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so overall, in this particular case, if somebody doesn't have any prior felony convictions, any documented criminal history, and they are charged and now convicted of manslaughter, and then what other information is going to be considered on that risk assessment?
We have the education, employment, financial situation, family and social support, neighborhood, substance abuse, criminal attitudes, behavioral patterns, and peer associations.
Okay, so if you have a supportive family member that has lots of family and friends that are willing to be there for you, you got a job, and you otherwise have a good attitude, do you expect that person to be on the high risk?
I do not.
Not necessarily, right? And as far as those that are on the high risk, we also have probationers that commit new offenses that are on the low risk, correct?
Correct.
We have people that commit new offenses every day here in Tarrant County that are on the medium risk
That's correct.
and the high risk too.
That's correct.
In fact, even though it purports to try to predict the level of risk, we have folks every day that we hope and we pray that they won't commit a new offense, but they do anyway, correct?
That's correct.
And when we talked about GPS earlier, have you had folks that have cut off their GPS and escaped this county and this state before?
Yes, we have.
Out of this court,
Out of this courtroom.
with this judge?
Yes.
And have those people committed violent offenses before?
That's correct.
And at that point, either the prosecutor and the defense attorney agree to put that person on probation, or a jury just like these folks have agreed that that's a good idea, correct?
That's correct.
There's really no way to predict with any kind of degree of certainty that that person's not going to be a risk in the future, right?
That's correct.
I mean, we want to do the best we can. We try to do that, but sometimes we just don't know, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And so when we talked earlier about these conditions of probation, you would certainly agree with me that the majority of these probation conditions are pretty much what all of us do on a daily basis. Don't commit any violations of the law, right? Act right, do right, don't use drugs, don't hang out with people of harmful or disreputable character. Those are the types of things that all of us, all the folks in Tarrant County, should be abiding by, correct?
That's correct.
Now, I don't have to report into probation and give you a UA. I'm not having you come out to my house once a month, right? Meeting with you once a month. But overall, these are things that support your dependents. Those are folks, we all do that, right? I would certainly hope that we do, right?
Mostly, yes.
Sure. Work faithfully at suitable employment. That's pretty basic, right?
That's correct.
All right. Don't possess firearms, right? That's another condition.
It is, yes.
Got to pay some fees, right?
Right.
And that's kind of the last few all deal with paying fees. There's 21 conditions on the standard condition form, right?
Yes, there is.
And the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deal with fees.
That's correct.
And in the very last one, you've got to have a valid driver's license and insurance to drive a car, correct?
Correct.
And as long as somebody has that, they get to drive a car. And that's the same thing that all of us do, right?
That's correct.
And nothing about a manslaughter conviction that would keep you from driving a car, right?
Right.
So those 5 conditions that all deal with fees, anyone ever get in trouble if they don't pay their fees, if they're on probation?
Some do, yes.
Okay, tell me the trouble that they get in. Are they put in jail by this judge?
Usually it would involve restitution, but it'll at least involve being in front of the judge to address it.
Okay. And the truth is to the jury is that if you don't pay your fees, you're not going to get in trouble and get revoked on probation, right?
Typically, you will not get revoked for not paying fees.
Sure. So tell the jury what it means to be revoked on probation. What does it mean to have probation revocation in this court?
Probation revocation just means that you were on probation, you had violations, and then petitions submitted to the court, and then the person gets time. Basically, they can get, depending on what their type of case is, it could be jail time or it could be TDC time.
When you say TDC time, is that the Texas Department of Corrections?
Yes,
So you said jail time, meaning Tarrant County jail time,
that's correct.
TDC time, meaning prison time.
Correct.
And who decides that sanction or that punishment?
Usually it's discussed between the state and the defense.
And ultimately, it's up to this judge if they go in front of him to make that determination, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so let's talk about probation revocations and how often they occur, all right? So out of, let's just say, 1,000 folks we got on here in probation in this court, do we have a lot of probation revocations pending?
We do, yes.
Tell the jury how many.
I don't have an exact number, but as of 2016, about 33% are revocations.
So 1/3 of the people that we decided are worthy of probation have been, at least have a pending revocation or have been revoked on probation?
Those are the actual revoked people.
Those are the folks that have been revoked,
Correct.
not even the ones that have messed up and maybe have a probation revocation, but those that have actually been revoked.
That's correct.
Because there's a difference, right?
There is, yes.
So tell us about the difference. When you have somebody that is on probation and messes up, let's talk about, for example, they submit a dirty urinalysis. That happens, okay? Are they going to get revoked and sent to prison by this court?
Not necessarily.
That doesn't happen very often, and that's not just this judge, that's across all the district courts, correct?
That's correct.
Typically, if there's one or two small violations, the judges are not immediately revoking these folks and sending them to prison, right?
That's correct.
Because in general, the basic foundation of the probation department is to try to rehabilitate, right?
Right.
You guys work hand in hand with these folks every single day to try to give them chance after chance after chance. Would you agree with me?
I agree with that.
In fact, sometimes when we're in front of the court asking for this person to be revoked and sent to prison, we've been in front of the court multiple times with multiple violations, right?
That's correct.
And really, when someone violates probation, most of the time, that's a circumstance where they've committed a new offense, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't really find out about somebody hanging out with a person with harmful or disreputable character unless you guys are told about it, right?
That's correct, or unless it's noted in the offense report
For a new offense.
for the new offense.
And that's if y'all find out about it, right?
Correct.
Meaning that the police are involved and it's reported to you, right?
We do get notices whenever there are new arrests in Texas.
Sure. But as far as, let's talk about possessing a firearm. If you guys are not going out to the person's home, how are you going to know whether they have a firearm or not?
If they get picked up for a new offense with a firearm, or if someone reports that they have a firearm.
And if they tell you too, right?
True, yes.
And wouldn't you agree with me that for the most part, the basis of probation, so much of it depends on the information given to you by the person on probation?
Yes.
It's extremely important that they have an open mind, they have an open heart, they are willing and ready to participate in probation, right?
Yes.
In fact, one of the very first things they have to do is admit the offense, right?
Yes.
And they have got to, because that's how you tailor the probation, right?
Yes.
So they have to admit the offense, and you go through the risk assessment, and they have to be willing and able to do all those things, right?
That's correct.
And the information that you use to tailor the probation is based off what they tell you, right?
Some of it is, yes.
So to a certain degree, garbage in, garbage out. So we're really hoping that they're being honest and open with you, right?
Right.
And I know you've been doing it a long time. You have folks that are dishonest with you sometimes.
That's correct.
Sure. And as far as those that are currently, you said it's a third of people that have been revoked here in Tarrant County. Those that have been revoked, who makes the determination of how long they go to prison?
I mean, ultimately, the judge makes the sentence.
And so these folks right here that have heard all about the manslaughter that was committed in this case, they don't get to make that determination, right?
That's correct.
And are they even contacted?
No.
So if this defendant goes out and commits any other new offenses, they are not going to have a say at all in what he is sentenced to, correct?
That's correct.
And it may not be just this judge that makes that determination. It could be a visiting judge that's here that day, right?
It could be.
Yeah, it may be him that's heard this case, or it actually may be a different judge, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So the folks that are in the best position to know everything about this case, sitting in the box, they actually don't get a say in that going forward, right?
That's correct.
And they also don't get a say in what conditions are placed on this defendant. That's going to be the standard conditions and whatever additional conditions, if they are sought by the risk assessment in this court, right?
That's correct.
Do you have any idea, can you tell us the percentage of as far as probationers that get more conditions than just the standard?
I don't have a number, but a lot of them do get additional conditions.
When you say a lot of it, if you got 1,000 folks, are most of them on standard conditions, or is the majority on additional or high risk conditions?
Most of them, I would say, are in standard conditions, but when they do go for the assessment, that's also adding on conditions on top of that. And that could be adding on any type of like high-risk conditions or mental health conditions. It just depends, but I would say a lot of people do get added on conditions.
Do you guys, the field officers, y'all interview the family members of the cases that are coming in front of y'all? Do y'all ever get to interview the victims' families?
No.
Okay. So they don't get an input as well, is that right?
They are welcome to call, and if they give input, then we'll listen to it. But normally, we don't go ahead and contact them to ask for input.
But you guys are willing to take the opinions and feelings and input of what the victim's family thinks is appropriate.
Yes.
Now, somebody that is convicted of manslaughter, second-degree felony in the state of Texas, what additional conditions are typically ordered on them besides these standard conditions?
The only conditions I can think of are not to have any contact with the victim's family.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay. And we also talked earlier about the reoffend, there's a recidivism rate, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm not asking you what the rate is, but can you tell the jury what that is? Just generally what recidivism is.
Recidivism just means that they have messed up on their probation.
Messed up, committed another
Committed a new
offense.
offense, had violations.
Now, how many, if we've got 974 probationers in this court, I'm just, throwing out that number, 1,000 folks, how many different probation officers or field officers do y'all have to supervise those 900 folks?
Supervision officer wise, we have 64 regular officers and 73 specialized officers.
So what's the ratio? So per probation officer, how many folks do they actually supervise themselves?
Usually the average is 140 for the regular probation officer.
So per probation officer, they are supervising 170 what?
140
Okay.
is the average.
140 is the average.
Yes.
Okay. So one for every 140 probationers.
For the regular officer, yes.
Okay. What about for you said there's a different type of specialized. I believe is what you said, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And would this fall into the specialized probationers as far as somebody that has standard conditions?
The standard conditions would fall under the regular officer.
All right, so let's go from the 1 to 140 probationers. That one probation officer is responsible for meeting with all those 140 folks every month, rather?
Correct.
Okay, and they meet with them up here in this general area downtown with the probation office?
No, they meet with them in the field service unit.
Okay, somewhere in Fort Worth,
Fort Worth, Arlington,
wherever they live.
wherever they live, we have different offices that accommodate their zip codes.
But that one probation officer is responsible for meeting face-to-face with that person every month, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so on average, they're not able to spend that much time if they got 140 folks they got to meet with in a 30 or 31 day month period, right?
That's correct.
It's just not possible. It's not y'all's fault, but it's just not possible, right?
That's correct.
Would you agree with me that you guys are inundated and overworked?
I wouldn't say we're overworked, but I do feel like we do the best we can with what we have.
Absolutely. Y'all busy?
We are busy, yes.
Quite a bit. All right. Overall, there's really no way, as much as you might try and want, there's really no way to guarantee that this defendant will not go out and reoffend. Is that true?
That's true.
And the only place that you can guarantee that does not happen is if he is behind bars, correct?
That's correct.
I'm going to pass it to Sean.
Redirect.
For the last 7 years and 50 weeks, Sharon Wilson has put people with violent felonies on probation, correct?
That's correct.
She has to sign it. One of her prosecutors, like these two court chiefs right here, have to agree to put people on probation, correct?
That's correct.
They agree and they trust that the district judges that Tarrant County has elected can supervise a probationer on probation, yes?
Yes.
And if there's a third recidivism rate, that means Sharon Wilson got it wrong a third of the time of her prosecutors placing them on probation, right? Somebody had to sign from the state to get a plea deal done, yes?
Yes,
You have to judge the individual, and it's not just self-reporting. Upon a plea deal or upon a conviction that's placed on probation, there is an electronic system here called TextShare. Are you aware of that system?
yes,
And I think the jury's heard a little bit about the discovery issue. So if there's 307 files in TextShare assigned to this case, the state opens up the 307 files to probation through you, and you have a system at probation now, a new statewide system, to consume all that data so you can verify what any probationer's telling you, correct?
that's correct.
So you have a meter, whether somebody's telling you the truth based on the facts as you know it from what the official report is from the police department, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
Ms. Diener,
Nothing further, Your Honor.
may Ms. Livingston be excused subject to any potential recall?
No objection from the state.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Good timing. We're going to break for lunch, okay?
So this would be a good time for me to ask you guys if you're interested in me coming back to this feed after lunch. It has not been the most fascinating thing I've ever watched, but yeah. I if you guys want me to, I can come back in an hour. It's up to you. I've only got 4 people watching, so I may not. I'll think about it. Watch for the thumbnail, and I'll see if you guys are really interested, I will. But Mickey sounds like she's not too interested. She said you may or may not be. There goes the window. Yep, tomorrow's Saturday, then, Mickey. Yeah, maybe I'll do a special wrap up later on. We'll have to see. I don't think this is not as interesting as I thought it was going to be, and I don't know what the defense has left. I know you do. I know you guys all do. Anyway, I love you guys too. I'm thinking I'm not coming back because this has been really not what I thought it was going to be. But I will probably do a short show tomorrow, Crafting a Crime Saturday edition, to cover whatever else happened in the afternoon. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.